At some point, when I would flex my pecs and let go, my pecs weren't relaxed. They were doing what's called benign fasciculations, which means you contract your muscle and it contracts, then you relax and your muscle goes, and then it relaxes. I took 9 months off of chest training. I was in my early 20s. This was incredibly painful. At the end of this 9 months or close to the end, I remember looking myself in the mirror and to my physique and crying. I actually started to cry because I built all the stuff and then it was gone. Hey folks, Dr. Mike here for the RP Strength channel. And today I want to tell you about 4 of some of the worst injuries that I've ever had in and around the gym and how they affected my training, how they happened, and really, really importantly, how you can get all the gains that you've got coming to you while minimizing greatly the risk that you get injured like I did. Because I've been pretty smart with my training, but I've had times where I wasn't as smart with my training, and I can't benefit from those in the past because I already got these injuries, but I am benefiting from them now and into the future, and you can as well. So let's plug in here and go down old memory lane there and see how many injuries I've had that, well, it made me thought about not doing this thing no more. Just kidding. I never had an injury made me reconsider the iron game, as they call it, but I've had some pretty gnarly ones. Let's start out with injury number 1. This is definitely my most crazy tale. I did this thing where I was training normally, and then one of 2 things happened. And I don't know which one of these 2 got me hurt, but I suspect it's one specifically. So one is I was trying to do some plyos for my chest and for my quads in addition to normal training because you're in your early 20s and you think it's going to make you more jacked somehow. So like really explosive movements with light weight on top of normal training. And at the same time, I went down to a 1 muscle group every week frequency, the bro split. And a little bit after that, I started to get a sensation in my pecs, both sides. There was a little bit of pain kind of right on the outside here. And I also got the same thing in my quads at the same time. I backed off of my quads and that all went away, though it took some time. But for my pecs, what ended up happening was I kept training them. And at some point when I would flex my pecs and let go, my pecs weren't relaxed. They were doing what's called benign fasciculations, which means you contract your muscle and it contracts, then you relax and your muscle goes, and then it relaxes. Like there's still like not willful contraction going on afterwards. It feels like something's still squeezing. You're like, what the hell? And at first I thought like, oh, I'll be okay. I went up, did my usual sets and reps, and on set number 2, it always happened on set number 2, scar tissue or something would give out on one of the presses. It was painful. I could feel like a tearing sensation. And the first time this happened, I was like, yeah, tore my pec. And I never got any bruising. All I got was a pretty decent amount of pain, difficult to even like push a tiny little bit on like the edge of a door. Very, very drastic pain when moving the pec around. Had to train around it. Laid off pec training for about 2 weeks. Took another few weeks to ease back in, and then everything seemed to be okay. Except I had these benign fasciculations all the time. Anytime I'd contract my pecs, I could feel them ruffling after, and I was like, what the hell is going on? I went to rehab. They had no idea what was wrong with me. I went to a neurologist. They had no idea what was wrong with me. This was in the early 2000s. I don't know if anyone knows what this shit is still to this day, but my quads went through this process too. I really backed off of quad volume and my quads stopped doing the fasciculating and they stopped having this little thing of pain in there. And then all was well. My pecs did not cooperate. I took 9 months off of chest training, but I did it better. I did 9 months of no upper body training at all. I was in my early 20s. This was incredibly painful. At the end of this 9 months or close to the end, I remember looking at myself in the mirror and to my physique and crying. I actually started to cry because I'd built all the stuff and then it was gone. And during the time that I wasn't training upper body, I was blasting the shit out of my legs. Some of the best deadlifts I've ever done, some of the best walking lunges I've ever done. And the problem is both deadlifts and walking lunges had me contracting my pecs with the dumbbells or something. And I would actually pull my pecs during walking lunges. And it took me a few months to realize, like, wait a minute. Actually, these exercises are still hurting my chest. And I was like, oh my God, dude, what the hell do I do? My shit is broken. Nobody could help. And later on, I got a handle on this issue to some good extent. I'll tell you how in a second. But I had the same experience with my triceps. But I know exactly when I got this experience with my triceps. It was, I was doing barbell rowing, cambered bar rowing, actually. And I had done a ton of volume. Usually I would do like 6 or 8 sets of rows, then move into pull downs. Rows were feeling so good. I believe I did 12 sets of 10 to 20 reps on rows. And after that, my triceps, my long head, started to do the benign fasciculations thing. And if I pulled too hard, it would, scar tissue would pop off or whatever it was and cause a lot of pain for a few weeks as I rehabbed the region. So I realized that what probably got me this weird injury to begin with was acute, like single session, overtraining for a specific muscle. So taking one muscle very close to failure, and all this was to failure training, for 15 sets. And I remember I was doing the same thing in chest because I was trying the bro split, was such a huge stimulus that something went awry and I kind of never recovered. Since hurting my chest, what I was able to figure out was that if I warmed up with a few sets of 5 to 8 reps of relatively light dumbbell flies with a slow eccentric and a deep stretch at the bottom, I could then train relatively heavy and very much reduce the probability that it would pull my pec again. But if I did more than 2 or 3 weeks of increasingly more difficult pec work, my pec would pull again, or one of the other pecs would pull again, because it was like my body was permanently not able to handle stress like it used to before. One time overtraining. It was awful. So over time, I actually quit powerlifting pretty much because of this. And I never benched heavy ever again. I went for big incline presses, which were less probability of injury. Overhead presses, which are pretty close to zero. I got really good at overhead pressing. And I got into hypertrophy work for pecs, moderate rep ranges, still close to failure, but no sets of 5 to 10 or even 5 to 15, very hard, full max, using all of your pecs like I used to back in powerlifting. And I've never done that since. So this is an injury that's kind of hurt me forever. The tricep thing, I still deal with as well. It's very well managed, but what helped me there was instead of pec flies, it was overhead work for the lats and the triceps. So pullovers of various kinds, slow controlled. If I include those regularly, for some reason, it helps stimulate that area enough in kind of a rehabilitative way or something like that to where it's good to go. And so I don't know how exactly these injuries happened. But what I do know pretty well was every time before they happened, it was a crazy amount of one session volume. Now, Jared Feather, IFE Pro, whose shirt I'm currently wearing, he's had friends and clients actually get rhabdomyolysis, the kind of acute decomposition of the muscle from way too many sets in one workout. So what I'll tell you guys this as far as how you can avoid doing it is no one workout is ever going to make or break you. No one workout is ever going to be the difference between gaining a lot and gaining nothing. And accumulated workouts over time, assuming that you are healthy, not hurt, are what's really going to help you be able to drive those gains. And so if you are used to doing 4 sets of chest, just do 5 in the next workout. If you're used to doing 8 sets of chest, just do 9 or 10 in the next workout. Don't have a workout with 6 sets of chest and then do 12 sets of chest all the way to failure. There's probably a very low chance you will get hurt, but it's not 0. And it's higher than if you just randomly roll the dice. So yeah, YOLO workouts are fun, but if you want to drive that relative effort, how close to failure, how many drop sets you're doing, that's totally cool. Just make sure your total number of sets is constrained, because what I did in these workouts that got me hurt was I just kept going way beyond the muscle being beat to death. That's how I got in trouble. That injury is now feeling a lot better, but my triceps never going to be the same again. So in jiu-jitsu, I can't snap people down super hard, because if I try to do that, very likely my triceps are going to pull. I can never use my chest for maximum pushing strength ever again. My quads have since healed and I've squatted my biggest weights, but not the same for chest and triceps. Future pharmacological cures, please cure me. But until then, I have to do very, very controlled lifting in those exercises. And it kind of sucks. Heavy pull-ups are also out because they use the long head. It blows. Next, injury number 2. I got a herniated disc from doing squats and good mornings in the same workout. But it wasn't the squats and good mornings actually that screwed me over. It was overhead presses. How the hell is that possible? I got really into overhead pressing. I was very, very good at it. And after this injury, I would become even better at it later. But what I was doing was a lot of standing overhead press with a nice lean like you're supposed to. That irritated my sacroiliac joint. My SI joint was really inflamed. And what tended to really hurt was having a very upright posture when doing squats, for example. What tended to make it feel better is if I rotated my pelvis under a little bit, bare down with my abs, and did squats that way. And that's the way you're supposed to do them for strength sport. But it turns out that my SI joint was more inflamed on one side than the other. And I was an idiot. And I was getting through some squats and good mornings. And I felt like, okay, if I tilt my hips a little sideways, rounding only one part of the hip and not the other, I'm like pain-free when I do this movement. Did it. Felt like a weird shot from the middle of my back down my leg. And I was like, duff. That was strange. And then over the course of the next several hours, I got to a pain level that was debilitating. I couldn't get out of bed. And I couldn't feel, if I touched the skin of my hamstring and my glute in one small part in that area, I couldn't feel my skin. I could just feel my finger, but I couldn't feel through my own leg. And I was like, uh-oh, that's definitely herniated something or other. Got all the situation done, all the medicine. The only thing that really worked was resting for a while and very limited mobility. And then when I got back into training, I actually rehabbed the shit like, I don't want to say textbook, but by then I was a PhD student. I did it well. What I did was I did 0 back movements that required flexion extension, nothing that loaded the spine. For legs, I started back with high bar squats, but with extra plates under my heels and weightlifting shoes. And I pushed my knees as far over my toes as they would go and stayed completely like weirdly upright. That didn't round my back at all and allowed me to do leg stuff. I actually used occlusion training. So I would take knee wraps and wrap around my proximal thigh area so that my quads would fill up with blood, and I would do like multiple sets of 10 to 15 reps like that, get crazy pumps. And I remember growing lots of muscle during that rehab phase, which started like a week after I got hurt. And then by the time that I was repping 3 plates again for sets of 10 in that style, I had gotten like bigger quads than ever. And then shortly after, I actually recorded a video for YouTube. It was 405 for 5 sets of 10, one of my best squats at the time. Everything was hunky-dory. Shortly thereafter, I got back into stiff-legged deadlifts and good mornings, but with very low weight and literally taking like 6 to 8 weeks to ramp back up to remotely normal weights, and with a huge emphasis on stellar technique. So first of all, don't round your back if you're not used to it. Lesson number 1 in heavy lifting. 2, don't asymmetrically round your back. You're going to round one side, round the other side for the love of God. And 3, you can 100% make a full comeback. And now I still can't feel part of my skin on my leg, believe it or not, but I haven't had any reversals or any kind of crazy shit with my lower back since. It's actually completely asymptomatic other than that. And so a lot of back injuries will get back basically to 100%. But it is critical, you guys, that you take your ego and you go, I'm saving this ego for big lifts and big jacked muscles in 6 months. That's when I'm going to feed the ego, because I really care about my ego. You guys probably thought that I was going to say kick the ego out the door. No, the ego is important. It's why you lift weights. Let's just be honest here. Scott, any debate on that? Ego.
No debate.
No debate, just ego. And we put the ego on a timer that says, we're going to start you off here. But because we care so much about our ego, we're going to do the stuff now we don't want to do, which means very isolated movements, very upright postures, very slow eccentric control with pauses and blood flow occlusion and high reps and all that shit that makes leg training even worse. But after you slowly work up 5 and 10 pounds at a time over months, you're going to realize that you have bigger quads now, bigger whatever muscle that was hurt in the process, and your technique is better. Your mind-muscle connection is better. Your joints all around your body are better because you haven't been hammering the whole body with heavy weights. And now you're able to work back into strength slowly, be the strongest you've ever been, and the most jacked. So overall, as far as raw gains in muscle size, I basically lost nothing through that spinal injury, because I was able to be like, okay. I'm clearly not in the position to lift heavy for a while. Let me lean into very isolated hypertrophy training. And guys, that's a massive unlock. If you can't go heavy, you go high rep with short rest and lots of sets. That, according to all the science we have, makes you at least as jacked as going heavy. And for low versus high volume, going lighter actually will get you even more jacked if the volume is very high. So if you get hurt in any kind of similar way, but you're able to do full range of motion for even other muscle groups around that hurt area, lighter, higher rep, shorter rest break with very good technique and very good mind-muscle connection, take that opportunity to upgrade your ability to be aware of your body and be a better technician later in training, and the massive muscle gains that'll come from that. The alternative is twofold. One, you can just give up and not lift for a while and then just tell guys like, yeah, man, I haven't been lifting in a while. Hey, Scott, ask me what's wrong. Why not?
Well, what's wrong, Mike?
Yeah, it's my back, man. It's my elbow. It's like shoulder. It's like a knee thing. It's my ankle.
Yeah, not like in high school.
No, in high school, I was a god, bro.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, man, no one's ever run as many touch passes with downs as I've received in my track career, rugby. So you could do that. Or you can, every few weeks, try to go heavy again with your normal technique for heavy lifting, get re-injured like a motherfucker or irritate the area, and then just be back to square one. Those are two shit options. I'll take isolation bodybuilding for 500, Alex. It's a Jeopardy joke for you young people that don't know what Jeopardy is. It's a game that, Scott, in the now that O3 exists, Jeopardy is pointless, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I mean, geez.
Kind of pointless the whole time, but
yeah.
nowadays it's really not impressive. So just make sure you understand, and this may be one of the more important lessons I have for you guys for today, is when you get hurt, you got to flip the switch. I'm a machine. The machine has malfunctioned. What is logically a good idea for me to do to get the machine back on track in its due time? Not in the time I want, in the time with which tissue actually takes to heal. Be patient, train hard, high reps, and very good technique. Isolate that area away from harm. You'll be back in what looks in retrospect like no time, even better than you walked in. Or you can have a really bad time of it. Injury number 3. This one is not so important a lesson, or I guess not so intricate a lesson, but important nonetheless. So I was training in New York City at 19th Street Gym, which is now known as some other name. It's on 19th Street in New York. There's only one of these gyms. And Mr. Nick Shaw and I were training early days when we were personal trainers, and we were doing barbell walking lunges, and I was doing sets of 10 with 245 pounds. And I took a step and I heard an audible tearing sound and pain on my inner thigh. And I was like, oh, God damn it. I racked the weight and I was like, tried to do a body weight lunge. I was like, nope, that's a torn adductor. And it sure as shit was. It bruised up, nothing crazy, but enough to be like, things came off of me. It was really tough to walk. Like I remember I was taking the subway a bunch, walking up the stairs in the subway took like forever because I had to walk like one leg at a time. Sleeping was more difficult because anytime I moved, it would hurt. It was a tough few weeks. I rehabbed the injury super well, never paid for it again. I never went ultra heavy in lunges after that because it always felt kind of weird. I probably could have, but then I realized what I'm about to tell you right now is that going ultra heavy in lunges is kind of pointless. If you can make most of the weight go onto your front leg, onto your lead leg, you get a crap ton of glute hypertrophy anyway with relatively low loads. So there's no reason to do that. And I'll tell you guys this, there are ways of using very heavy weights, but with very long steps, slow descents until the knee gently touches the ground, and then a little pause at the bottom and a comfortable ascent. When I was doing these, I was YOLOing. I was doing the Sam Sulek, which is get some fucking heavy weight in your hands and go. Now, it was it was full range of motion. It was like something you would see and be like, wow, that's really impressive. 245 pounds, that's 2 plates and a 10 on each side, like walking up and down lunge-wise with a bar. Like pretty dope. Scott, that's not something you see usually, I guess, right? Like,
No.
And so I was touching my knee to the ground, but it was quick and the descent was quick and the stance wasn't as wide because I was falling into that thing of how do I lift the most weight and impress myself with the highest number of reps with a given heavy weight. And I paid for it with an injury. And then after that, I cleaned up my lunges and my glutes only ever got bigger because I started taking longer steps, sinking slower in, doing slightly higher reps, and really shifting my weight to my front foot, which was a trick I only learned like 20 years later when I was training with Jared Feather. If you take all of that into consideration, I think the big lesson is this. Anytime you are working for physique, like you want to be your most jacked, and there is an exercise that you could do YOLO style, like let's go heavy and clang and bang, or you could do it controlled style. Really the only thing you have to ask is just 2 questions. One, is one of these going to get me better gains? And the answer is no, they both work for roughly equivalent gains. And 2, which one is statistically more likely to get me hurt? And it's clanging and banging by a long shot. And so then you end up doing the slower, more controlled reps, not super slow, but controlled and super deep and a big stretch, nothing crazy explosive, not because you think that's going to get you more jacked. It's not. YOLO lifting gets you really jacked. It's only because you've been hurt before and you're like, man, I'm good, bro. I don't care to be known as that guy who lunges a lot, who's also hurt. I do care to be known about that guy that's just cheeked up, cheddared out, you know what I'm saying? Peach gang 24/7, just like a donk, just glutes. That's what I want. I.e., I want gains. So if you want gains and you have an ego about the shit, like you trying to fucking like move mega steel, listen, all love and respect. I used to do the same thing. Consider going a bit more controlled so that you reduce your probability of injury, so that you never have to get hurt. Because that's absolutely the best thing that can happen is you just never get hurt. But after you get hurt, if you get hurt, then it's going to be like, yeah, okay, time to slow it down. Huge deal, guys. Huge deal. Very, very important to convey. Because if you think about it, the glory of just like lifting tons of weight outside of a sanctioned meet is fickle. The glory of permanently living in a really jacked body, bro, that shit lasts. And remember, that's why you're in the gym to begin with. You want to get super fucking jacked. If you want to get really strong, you got to train like a power lifter or a strongman. That's a whole different game altogether. But I think a lot of people get confused as to why they're in the gym. They started in there because they're jacked. They realize they were pretty strong. They just start chasing weights. Technique goes out the window. One torn adductor later, you really rethink some shit. Last injury for you guys. Injury number 4 was I did a whole lot of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu that week. And then I went and did some overhead pressing in a machine. Everything felt fine. And then I went to go do 1 set of upright rows with dumbbells. And I picked up the weight and I did a few reps. And all of a sudden, it felt like my delt and trap mega contracted by themselves. I was like, what the f-? It was this really weird, like searing pain, like burning. And my delt started like moving, benign fasciculations on its own. And so did my trap. And I was like, what the f-? Racked the weights. And I was like, this is not good. Pain is radiating down my entire right arm at this point. And I'm like, oh shit. So I realized after trying it a few more times over several years, every time I do just dumbbell upright rows, something in here goes, I get crazy nerve pain and I can't can do it anymore. This injury was pretty gnarly. You guys will notice that many of you in the channel have already noticed that I lean back when I talk most of the time. I'm actually leaned back. That is because if I lean forward and sit completely vertically, like if you were to take me to the bar to buy me drinks to try to get in my pants, DM me. Boys only, over 18, but under 25. I want that innocence, right, Scott? Like, you know, when his eyes widen when you talk about career and you're like, just drink more.
Dr. Mike. Oh my goodness. I can't believe it.
Was Jimmy your name?
Stars
Jimmy.
in his eyes.
Stars in his eyes.
They fade.
Do you want an internship at RP YouTube? There are ways of getting those. Anyway, if you're a 24-year-old with dreams and hopes still, and your name is Jimmy, see you in the comments. I can't sit vertically for too long. It's getting better slowly after like a decade. But if I sit vertically for a while, just like completely upright, and especially if I lean over onto a bar, I start to get pain through my right arm because some shit on my neck is not zigged once. It's not zagged back quite yet. So really annoying injury. I was able to go back and train really hard very shortly thereafter, but I can never do dumbbell upright rows again so far. I'm not trying. Every time I tried it, I was like, all right, fine. And if you think about it, you're like, Mike, you're a reasonably educated person. How is it that you do barbell upright rows, cable upright rows, face pulls, dumbbell laterals, but dumbbell upright rows are the thing that just gets you? I have no idea. I have absolutely no idea. And if anyone's really sharp on the injury stuff, I would sure like to know about it. And it's really frustrating to have that happen to you. But at the same time, I'm counting my blessings because as long as I kind of lean back most of the time and I don't do dumbbell upright rows, everything is fine. I never got any crazy muscle asymmetries from it. Like, because people get neck injuries and they will have like one of their arms or biceps or something atrophy, like relative to the other side. It's really, really wacky. And this one, I suppose, is a bit of a somber tone. What do I mean by that? For all the other injuries so far, what I had for you is actionable steps about how you can avoid it. Let's go through them really quick just to get a good review. Pec and tricep and quad thing, don't YOLO your training and train like double your training volume in any one session. It's not worth it. That was the take home. Herniated disc, always maintain good technique. And if you do get hurt, it's really, really, really going to work out if you slowly come back in instead of trying to be a hero right away or just quitting the entire thing. The adductor tear, technique is number one. Don't just YOLO weight instead of YOLOing volume like the first one. Going ultra heavy just for shits and giggles is not worth it. Have really, really good control, really good eccentric control, really good pauses at the bottom. You probably won't get hurt. The take home points for this one, for the trap delt nerve neck injury, is like, I guess once I knew that dumbbell upright rows were a non-starter, and I had loved the exercise for years. I still love the exercise. Once I knew that was off limits, I just worked around it. And once I knew that I couldn't sit upright much, I just worked around it. Now that's a shit lesson because it's like, well, it didn't really resolve, did it? But sometimes your best bet is just to work around the thing and slowly try to work back into it with light weights and low volumes to see if it gets better. Most of the time it will. But I guess the main point for this fourth and final injury I'm talking to you guys about is if you train hard and you do sports, it is almost certain that you are going to get hurt. Now, if you use the RP Hypertrophy app, if you look at our video descriptions of how to do the exercises, you listen to our YouTube chats about how good technique works, your probability of injury is going to be lower. Link in description. However, can I tell you, and remember, we never f with you on this channel. No, sorry, I take that back. We f with you all the time. We never lie to you. We're always keeping it 100. Can I tell you that you can get zero risk of injury? No. You lift heavy things, your probability of injury over the course of your career is almost certain. The real question is if you're smart in your training, how bad is your injury? What do you do about it? If you're real smart, your injury probably won't be that bad. Difficult to get an avulsed pec, but possible to get a strain or something and your rotator cuff goes wacky. Shit just happens. Injury will occur. And then your next thing is, how do I deal with it? Are you allowed to get depressed about it? Sure. If there's a girl in your life that likes to give people pick-me-up blowjobs after they get hurt, she's a great person to have in your text thread. Scott, why are you laughing so much?
Nice girl.
She's great.
She's out here doing God's work.
Hey, how are you? I just got off early. You're like, oh man, I'm fucking hurt. She's like, oh no, let me come over and massage you. I have oils. You're like, yeah, sweet oils.
A saint, really. Like Mother Teresa.
Mother Teresa plus blowjobs. But, you know, I mean, Scott,
Mother blowjob.
Mother blowjob. Would you be even if you're injured enough and pissed about it, you're not even in the mood for schloozies. You're like,
I don't know. You'd have to be really injured, I think.
I think you're just really horny, Scott. Haven't been injured in a long time. Guys, before I hurt Scott with my hands and then see if I can give him a blowjob, just remember, you get hurt. You can be depressed about it. You're entitled to that for a few minutes at least, maybe even a few hours. Think about this. In a few months, there's going to be a version of me that's more jacked, more ripped, and stronger. How do I get there? The answer is back away from what got you hurt. Do all the other stuff hard that isn't at all related to your injury. And then over the next few weeks, very gently, slowly, with super light weights, super low volumes, very big range of motion, start rehabbing the area that got you hurt. After a few weeks, start to do some serious training with it, but very light, moderate volume, lower rest break, very meticulous technique. And then after a few weeks of that, you're going to be able to come back into relatively normal training. And then look, your promise to yourself that future several months from now is going to be better. You can try to do the same shit that got you hurt. You can pretend you weren't hurt. How many people get hurt and they're like, ah, shit, I just have to take more ibuprofen for my next session. Don't do that. Stay away from what hurt you. Ease back into it. Work up over time. You'll be golden. I've been hurt way more times than this. These are just the top 4, like most intense, most memorable injuries, nicks and pains and all this other stuff. I've had dozens and I got back. I'm currently sitting right now in front of you near my very best. And in a few months, I will be almost certainly my very best physique ever at age 41. And the way I did it was some combination of stupidity, learning about it, and then doing better. We're on the same journey. If you guys watch videos like this, you'll probably do a little less stupidity, a little bit more learning about it, and be even more jacked. And that's what it's all about. Now go out there, don't get hurt, get jacked. I'll see you guys next time.